Hello. Hi, Steve.
Hello, James.
How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. How about yourself?
Wonderful. I'm good today. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for being with me
You're
today. I
my
appreciate it.
pleasure.
Yeah,
Are
I
you
know
ready
you.
to rock and roll?
Yeah, ready to rock and roll. We can just jump right into it if that's good with you.
Sure.
So, yeah, Steve Frazier, you're the author of Release the Coffee Cuffs. It's subtitled Winning the Battle with Caffeine. And I was just wondering if you could give us some background on how you came about to write the book and what were the influential factors and why you wanted to write such a comprehensive book on the effects of caffeine.
Sure. Well, it started 13 years ago. My wife got sick, and we saw 17 different doctors over 2 years. And basically, they all said the same thing. We don't know what's wrong with you. Leave. Never pursuing anything.
Right.
So she almost was dead. She was down from 115 pounds to 89 pounds. Our daughter walked in, who had just started her natural health practice, and in 15 minutes told her that she had Lyme disease from the waist down, which was then confirmed by her mentor 4 days later. So ever since then, it's been a journey, which led obviously into natural health because her illness caused her to be celiac, grain intolerant. Okay, that means no rice, no corn, nothing like that. Obviously, no gluten, so there's no wheat, and among other things. So we went into the natural health rabbit hole, which we're still in. We never will leave because once you know, and there's a popular saying in our house is you don't know what you don't know, and people don't know what all these things are doing to their bodies. Okay, whether it's food, whether it's beverages, whether it's caffeine. So several years ago, I became certified as a self-sabotage coach. And in the self-sabotage world, there's different pillars, emotional, financial, spiritual, physical, intelligence. And in the physical pillar, there's a number of things, self-sabotage tools. And we all self-sabotage. So uh, don't be worried. We all do it.
Hmm.
But in that physical pillar, our examples are caffeine, nicotine, alcohol, drugs, prescription drugs, overeating, lack of sleep. This is how we self-sabotage ourselves physically. And as I looked at the caffeine, I realized that I could have a major impact on people's lives by giving them knowledge. The book that I wrote is not anti-caffeine.
Hmm.
I am not anti-caffeine. I mean, it's kind of funny because as I hand the book out to friends and family, the first thing they say to me is, you're not going to take my coffee from me." And I just chuckle and say, well, I have no intention. I said, and I guess you realize I can't do that. I can't make you quit.
Hmm.
You have to you have to want to quit, whatever it is. Okay. Whether it's cigarettes, alcohol, caffeine, drugs, whatever. And so as I moved forward, I realized that I am just pro health and pro knowledge. I'm not anti anything because being negative doesn't get you anywhere. And by spreading information about what caffeine is doing to your health, I can possibly, and actually I will affect somebody's health. Okay, to the better, not to the
Hmm.
worst. Because a question for your listeners is, who really knows what true health is? And that's a big question. That it's not just a philosophical question. you know I mean, I'm not a picture of good health, but I am healthy.
Hmm.
Okay. I know what it feels like to wake up in the morning and I have energy. Okay. I'm 68 years old. I have no meds. I'm on no meds. I don't drink caffeine. I have I might have a caffeinated soda once a month. Okay. That would be it. And I don't even know why I do that. Okay.
Hmm.
I think just to get a little dopamine hit and get a little adrenaline hit and a little, cortisol hit,
Right.
whatever
Yeah.
I'm human. Okay.
Yeah.
That would be in my tool shed, my
Hmm.
self-sabotage
There's
tool
a time
shed.
and a place for it, you know.
Yes. Right.
Hmm.
And, I can tell you that chronic caffeine use is bad for you. Occasional caffeine use probably does little to no harm because, and by casual, I mean 1 to 3 times a week, not in a row. Okay. Even if you have a cup of coffee, even if you have an energy drink first thing in the morning, once or twice a week, you probably don't have long-term impact because your body processes it. And yet every day, your body, it just builds up a tolerance and then you need more and then you need more. And it's a
Hmm.
rinse and repeat
Yeah.
because there is a cycle. Your circadian rhythm is messed up. And, you know, what happens, when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do is either I look at the sun or I sit in front of a sun lamp. Because what it does is it helps get my cortisol going. Cortisol is a stress hormone, but it's naturally produced in the morning in everybody to get you going. It's what gives you the energy to start your day. And then as your day goes on, cortisol goes down and melatonin and adenosine go up. Now, a lot
Hmm.
of people have heard of melatonin, but a lot of people have not heard about adenosine. And adenosine is truly what puts you to sleep at night naturally.
Hmm.
And the caffeine molecule is very similar to the adenosine molecule. And when you drink caffeine, it plugs your adenosine receptors in your brain. It doesn't allow the normal adenosine to go in. And so if you're doing caffeine regularly, you are plugging up your adenosine receptors. And so you don't naturally uh, get that sleep. You don't go naturally to sleep at night like you should.
Hmm.
Now, with that being said, there are billions of people in the world drinking caffeine and they're going to sleep at night. And I know that. Okay.
Hmm.
And some of them it's taking them a while, and some of them they may go right to sleep because we all process differently.
Hmm.
And everything that I say is is not a generality, but it's not a fixed 100% rule because there's exceptions to everything. And
Hmm.
we all process caffeine differently
Is this like
because of
fast metabolizers and slow metabolizers?
that is something. And there's something there.
Hmm.
Okay. And that has to do with your genes. It has to do with what time, if you're a woman, what time you are in your menstrual cycle. For men, it is the CPY1A2 enzyme in your liver. If it's higher, you process faster and better. If it's lower, you process slower. Now we all
Hmm.
have that gene. We all have that enzyme, with the exception of fetuses. Fetuses do not produce that enzyme until they're 3 to 6 months old. So while they're in the womb, they can't process any caffeine. Now this is, and I'm going to jump way to the end of my presentation right now, okay? Because my mission is to spread information and knowledge so
Hmm.
that people can think, okay, do you know someone that are having these effects? And we're going to get into those, but we're going to talk about the fetus right now. Okay, so do you know someone that's pregnant?
Well, actually, funny you say that. My sister just recently gave birth to her first child, and she would have drank tea nearly every day. And during the pregnancy, she was very kind of hard-headed about like she's not consuming any alcohol whatsoever. She wasn't a big drinker necessarily, but like quitting caffeine as well. So I was kind of happy to hear that,
Wow.
because I
Yep.
know it has a pretty deleterious effect on a unborn baby.
It can be brutal because
Hmm.
here's here's what happens. Mom drinks caffeine for 9 months. Baby's born. 12 hours after it's born, it starts screaming bloody murder. And the doctor or the nurse says, "Oh, this is common. This is colicky. This happens all the time." Now, I'm not telling you that caffeine is the reason why all babies cry. Okay. However, if you think about the adenosine receptors in while the baby is in the womb, they're plugged, okay, because they're not processing any caffeine, so the caffeine is staying in their body. After they're born, the adenosine receptors open up. Now, this is what happens if you quit cold turkey. You get this massive headache, you get massive brain fog, you get massive fatigue. Okay, you don't control this. It's your body, internal workings, biology, whatever you want to call it. And so realize that that baby, if it's been on caffeine for 9 months, all of a sudden has this splitting headache. And there's no solution there unless you give it caffeine. Okay, I've been there 2 years ago. I quit cold turkey. I wouldn't recommend it to anybody because I had such a headache for 3 days. It was unbelievable. Brain
Right.
fog. If you do it, you should plan for at least 2 to 3 days because
Mhm.
it can take up to 9 days to
Wow.
really get through that phase. It depends on your use, how much you're using. Now, what else is caffeine doing to the baby, to the fetus? Well, in documented studies, which I have in my book, which is 300 references. So what I'm talking about here, I'm just not making up. Okay, I've documented all this. Is that caffeine during pregnancy, while the baby's in the womb, can lead to low birth weights. It can lead to miscarriages. It can lead to stillbirths. It can lead to, and that's the key, can lead to, it's not necessarily the factor. So there's millions of people every day having babies that are drinking caffeine, okay? And the moms are, and they're okay. However, if you are the one person that has a miscarriage or stillbirth and you were drinking caffeine, that possibly could have been the mitigating factor. And is that worth it? Is it worth it to drink caffeine for 9 months and take the risk of miscarriage? I have two miscarriages and a stillbirth in my immediate family. I have two grandkids that are not here because they miscarried. And so it's devastating, not just for baby and mom and dad, but for a whole family, that whole circle of influence. As you're uncle now, right? I
Mhm.
mean, if she would have had a miscarriage or stillbirth, you wouldn't be an uncle.
Mhm.
Okay, it just wouldn't be there, and you move on. But and then there's also developmental issues after the baby's born because it didn't develop properly because all this caffeine when it was in its body. And if it's underweight, then you got to catch up. So that's my micro mission is if you know someone that is pregnant and drinking caffeine, please share these facts with them.
Mhm.
And
Do you
then they
feel
can
that
do what
like
they want.
general like GPs and doctors would they be aware of this information and they would they advise, to be mothers to watch their caffeine intake or
I don't know if they're aware.
mm,
I think that they might advise them not to drink caffeine. Now, according to the American Medical Association, a mom can drink up to 200 milligrams of caffeine a day and it's okay for the baby. Okay. And I disagree with that
mm,
from the research that I've done. I think that no level is safe for the baby because you realize 200 milligrams but if it's every day,
that's quite a lot.
it's, yes, it is.
Mm,
It's significant.
mhm,
And so what should that be? Mm, It should be zero. Okay. You should just stop doing it. Okay. Just
mhm.
stop,
Yeah.
And so, that again, I jumped to the back. So now we'll go back to the beginning. So we'll talk about, your circadian rhythm. And, first thing that I do after I get up is I drink 20 ounces of lemon water. Okay. Why? Because I hydrate. I rehydrate my cells, which are dehydrated overnight. Now, caffeine is a diuretic. And so it makes you pee. And when you pee, you don't just pee water. You're also getting rid of calcium, magnesium, and some other minerals. Those are the two big ones. Now, if you're not supplementing those, and my suggestion here is not medical advice. However, you should talk to a natural health practitioner. The doctor's not going to probably say anything about this because they don't know about supplements. They don't know about natural things. And that's just the way it is. I'm not disrespecting them. They just don't know. You don't know what you don't know. Calcium or magnesium glycinate. is a great thing to take at night. It helps you sleep, whether you're on caffeine or not. Okay. Because a lot of the people that are going to listen to this are not going to quit. Okay. And I know that. But what can I do to help them then? Well, take some magnesium glycinate, take some supplements so you get those minerals back in your body and and you're going to feel better. And if you can wait an hour after you have gotten up to drink your first cup of coffee and you rehydrated, you're automatically going to feel better because you're not messing with your cortisol immediately upon getting up and you've rehydrated. Okay. At least with 20 ounces. And if you're drinking caffeine right after that, I would drink more water. Okay. Because again, it's a diuretic and it's going to leave you. You don't control this. This is your body. And so now what happens? Let's take the person that when they get up in the morning, and there's probably several billion of these. The first thing they do is they either have a cup of coffee, a cup of tea, a soda with caffeine, or an energy drink when they get out of bed. Why? Because they're tired. Because they didn't get a good night's sleep, because their circadian rhythm was messed up, which we're going to get to as we go through this process. Sleep is the foundation of your health. And if you talk to any caffeine drinker, chronic or regular, they're going to say, "Well, I sleep well every night."
Mhm.
Okay. Unfortunately, you don't. You think you do, but
Mhm.
you're not in a deep stage 3 and stage 4 sleep, which I'm going to get to right after the next thing. Because what happens when you drink caffeine first thing in the morning? Well, three different things kick in. One, you jumpstart your cortisol. Now what you're doing is you are messing with your circadian rhythm because you now have more cortisol in your body than you're supposed to. You realize this is just in one helping first thing in the morning. If you do this all day, even up to supper time, every time you take that caffeine, you're getting extra cortisol in your body. Now for men, you can get and women, but in particular men, you can get something called a cortisol belly. Because if you have too much cortisol in your system, it goes into your belly, literally. And there's studies that have shown this. You can't get rid of it naturally. I mean, you do by reducing your cortisol. Okay, but you can be healthy, you can eat right, you still get a cortisol belly. Now, what else happens when you drink caffeine? You get a dopamine hit. Dopamine is a hormone and it's wonderful. It's our natural high. Okay. It's a very mild version of probably a drug, a heavy drug. And so it makes you feel good. Well, who doesn't want to feel good, right? So what do? You have and ironically, a lot of the dopamine is released before you actually drink your cup of coffee or tea. It's the anticipation of having it that releases the dopamine. And then
Interesting.
you get more dopamine. And dopamine is primarily produced in the adrenal gland, but also in different parts of your body. The third one is a big one, and that's adrenaline. As soon as you drink caffeine, your body produces adrenaline because what it's done is it's telling your adrenal glands that you are now in a fight or flight circumstance. And this is very powerful, especially back in the day when you had to run from animals or run from invaders. And so what does the adrenaline do? One of the things it does is it pumps glucose into your muscles because you need to fight someone or you need to run away, right? And so you need that energy in your muscles. So your body's working with you. Our bodies are wonderfully and beautifully made if we don't mess with them. And our problem is that we are messing with them regularly
Totally.
throughout the day. And
You're
not
really
just
putting your
caffeine.
body in a crisis state when you're just drinking
Yes,
caffeine throughout the day. And it's funny,
correct.
most people go on a coffee break between like 10 o'clock or 12 p.m., midday, and that's when cortisol would naturally be highest and when you'd normally be on high alert, and drinking
Yep,
coffee just kind of exacerbates it even more. And you're just,
exactly.
I've felt it
Yep,
myself. I mean, you're jittery, you're keyed up. It's just,
yep,
it's,
yep.
yeah. Very common.
It so now what happens to your body when it has all this glucose in your muscles and you're not using it? You're sitting at your kitchen table, you're sitting at your desk at work, you're sitting at the coffee table, coffee break table, wherever, tea break, whatever the case may be. Well, you're not in fight or flight, so you're not using it. And so it spikes your blood sugar because if you use it, your blood sugar doesn't spike. But if you don't use it, your blood sugar spikes. Then what happens? Well, your natural body reaction is to pump insulin into your body. That's what your pancreas is going to do because it's got to bring your insulin, your blood sugar down. Because obviously, if you have extended periods of high blood sugar, you turn into a diabetic, type 2, type 1, whatever the case may be, generally type 2. Type 1 is where your pancreas actually stops or dies. My youngest son is type 1 diabetic, has been for 24 years. So I'm very familiar with that. I'm very familiar with the insulin. You have to have insulin to counteract carbs and or sugar, whatever you're putting in your body. So if you're drinking caffeine 1 to 5 times a day throughout the day, every time you do this, you hit a cortisol high, you hit a dopamine high, and you hit adrenaline high. And then you have all these things happen. So what happens is that your adrenals start to say, well, I'm getting tired.
Mm.
Get tired, and maybe I'm not going to pump out quite as much adrenaline because again, I'm tired. Your dopamine doesn't go up as high. Your cortisol keeps going up and staying up. And so your circadian rhythm is completely messed up. And it can get to the point in some people that their circadian rhythm flip flops. And so your natural circadian rhythm is you have energy in the morning and you're tired at night. And there are people that wake up in the morning are extremely tired and then they're wired at the end of the night. Their circadian rhythm has flip flopped.
Super.
Now, you know, as we've been on and I've been on I was a chronic caffeine user for 30 years when I was in the restaurant business. Then I quit because I had a health scare. And then I quit for a couple of years. I thought, oh, I've got this under control
Mhm.
because caffeine is not controlling me. Well, 6 years later, and without stopping, I decided that I wasn't sleeping well and that I was reliant on this for my energy. That's 2 years ago is when I quit cold turkey.
Okay.
And so, what is the biggest impact here? The biggest impact is on your actual sleep. And you are sleeping. And I will never tell anybody they're not sleeping because they are.
Mhm.
It's it's the stages of sleep. And very few people know about this, is there's actually 4 stages of sleep. And the first stage is where you're just drowsy, and that's about 5% of the cycle. You're in a subconscious, semi-conscious state. And then you go into stage 2, which is the longest period of sleep. And that stage is where you might have a little bit of dreaming, you might have a little bit of brain activity, but then you get to stage 3, and that is about 20 to 25% of your sleep cycle. And that's where you heal. And that's where your body, for men, you're producing testosterone. For women, you're producing estrogen, and you're healing the muscles in your body and all other things. What caffeine does when your circadian rhythm is disrupted is it delays the activation of stage 3 and shortens it. Now you get to stage 4, which is REM sleep. This is your deep sleep. This is where you dream. This is where your subconscious is repairing some things in your brain. And that stage is also delayed and also shortened. And so what happens is those two are delayed and stage 2 is lengthened. And stage 2 can go up to 60 to 65, maybe 70% of your sleep cycle. And then stage 3 and 4 are shortened. And so what happens when you wake up? You're tired. Now, here's a fun fact to know and tell. Your sleep cycle is not just once. We you generally have 4 to 6 sleep cycles throughout the night. And so you're hitting stage one, which is very shortened once you've gone to sleep. But stage two then gets longer, and stage three and stage four are shortened. And this happens. So after 4, 5, 6 times, you wake up. You didn't get that restful sleep that you need because you didn't get the long stage three and stage four sleep, and you're tired. And what's the natural reaction? Drink some caffeine,
More caffeine,
right?
baby.
And we rinse and repeat, right?
Hmm.
And, in the United States alone, 85% of adults drink caffeine daily. That's 2 to 300 million people.
It's crazy.
Worldwide, it's about 80%. So let's say, caffeine, let's say that it's 8 billion just for easy numbers. 80% of that is 6.4 billion people drink caffeine every day, probably. Now we know that there are probably people that don't have access to caffeine. So it might not be 6.4 billion. Maybe let's just say 5 billion. Okay. You know, just for an arbitrary number, right?
So
And so,
monumental.
right. And so this is affecting a lot of people. So how does it affect the men to start? We already talked about the fetus. And obviously there's a lot of pregnant women every day in the world. Okay, I don't know how many babies are born. I think I need to Google that so I can use it in my presentation. But there's millions and millions of babies born every day. We already know what it does if you're drinking caffeine while you're pregnant. So for a man, one thing we realize that when you get that adrenaline rush, your blood pressure goes up. Okay, because you're going into a fight or flight, and you are not controlling this. You People that say this doesn't happen to me, it is happening because your body is doing this. Your body has a reaction to caffeine. And so again, it affects people differently. So you and I could have the same cup of coffee or the same energy drink, and one of us could get this tremendous buzz, and one of us maybe isn't affected at all, because
Hmm.
we're all different. And so again, whatever I say, take it for a generality. There are exceptions, but there are no exceptions to how your body is reacting, because your body is your body and you're not controlling that. And so if you keep increasing your blood pressure throughout the day, you ultimately are going to have high blood pressure because it's up all the time, and this is your normal state now. Another thing, and what, as guys, you and I can sit here and talk all day about this, and very rarely are we going to talk about our anxiety or our emotions, because we've been programmed by society that real men don't talk about those things, right? And I say that very sarcastically, if you couldn't tell, okay? Because it affects your emotions, it affects your anxiety, because you said it, you mentioned this briefly before, is that it triggers these things in your hormones, and you can't help to have some anxiety, in particularly when your cortisol is going down, because and your adrenaline's going down, your dopamine's going down. What happens? You get anxious, and because you're human. What's the solution? Have some more caffeine. Okay, it's legal. It's, oftentimes at the workplace it's free. And I just want to mention this: I am drinking coffee right now
Decaf
with a
or
caveat. Yes, it's organic and it's Swiss water processed. And what that does is it takes out 99% of the caffeine.
mm,
Regular decaf still has 10 to 15% caffeine. So if you're sensitive to
mm,
caffeine, and there are a lot of people that are, and in particular women sometimes in their cycles, you still are getting a significant amount of caffeine. If you drink 3 to 5 cups of decaf a day, you're still possibly getting 80 to 100 milligrams of caffeine,
mm-hmm.
and you don't even know it. 6 to 8 months ago, I was writing the book, and I was drinking a can of Diet Dr. Pepper. And I don't know why in the world, but I looked at the ingredients and it had caffeine in it.
Goodness.
And I'm drinking a couple of these a day along with Sundrop Diet Sundrop was a citrus soda in the United States. It's on every grocery store shelf. Sundrop soda has the highest milligrams of caffeine of any 12-ounce soda on the market. Normal. So it's got more than Mountain Dew, more than Pepsi, more than Coke. And here it's sold as a citrus soda, and they put all this caffeine in it. Why? Because they want you to drink more.
It's
And
addictive,
it
right?
works very, very well. Okay. So we'll get back to the guys now. What else happens to them when they drink caffeine? It messes with their testosterone.
Mhm.
And this is a big deal because testosterone is very important for men for a number of reasons. One, it helps to build muscle. It helps to increase your libido or keep your libido high. And it keeps your sperm mobile and not fractured. So what cortisol and testosterone are, for lack of a better word, blood enemies. Because the more cortisol you have in your body, the less testosterone you're going to have because they don't get along and your body doesn't produce it as well. Remember, testosterone is produced in that stage 3 cycle of sleep. And if it's delayed and shortened, you're producing less testosterone.
Mhm.
And testosterone also is for muscles. You use, ironically, if you take a pre-workout drink that has a lot of caffeine in it, and then they put a lot of things in pre-workout drinks that have natural caffeine, which they don't put on the contents.
Oh,
So if you drink a pre-workout drink that says 200 milligrams, it could possibly have 250 or 300.
right.
While you're working out, your testosterone actually goes up. It does. Your body produces more testosterone while you're working out because you're using those muscles, and your body is naturally going to produce it. When you're done working out, your testosterone crashes. It goes down because your cortisol is still high. And then the next time you drink a caffeine, your cortisol goes up again. Your testosterone is not at the level it should be because you're not working out all day and you're not in fight or flight, so you're not using your muscles. And so you are going to be on this cycle, this hamster wheel of I need more caffeine for energy, I need more caffeine to be calm. Okay. And ironically, once you become a chronic user, you don't get the same effect from the same amount of caffeine. All you're doing is reaching a baseline. Remember in the beginning, we talked about what does it feel like to be really healthy?
Mhm.
Okay. Well, what you're doing throughout the day by drinking caffeine throughout the day is you are now just bringing your baseline up to where you feel okay because you don't get this huge buzz anymore because your body's had it. Your body says, "Hit, he keeps faking me out. He keeps telling me I'm going to be in fight or flight, and I'm not." Okay,
Mhm.
and you don't control this. Your body is controlling it because of your adrenal glands and some things like your adenosine receptors. Now, for women, it aggravates a whole bunch of stuff because women have a lot more hormonal stuff going on than men. So it can absolutely make you put more anxiety where you normally have some anxiety, you now have more nervousness. So what do? You take some more caffeine. Okay.
Mm. Well, it's funny, just on that point, Steve, I remember reading in your book, it was kind of hilarious, but scientists in a research in a study, they were wondering how could they induce anxiety in their subjects, and the best way they found of doing that was giving them high amounts of caffeine. So it's kind of
Isn't
crazy.
it? Isn't that something?
Yep.
It is. So they know. I'm obviously not all of them, but there are some of them, especially the research guys, know what it does to you, and
Hmm.
so they want to increase anxiety. Now, you look at a woman and you say, okay, if you're in your period in your time when you have a menstrual cycle, and that's, I mean, I don't know, that could be 30 to 40 years, right? I mean, I don't have the exact data, but it's a long time. There are certain areas in your menstrual cycle where you process caffeine differently, and in particular in the luteal phase, which is from 14 to 28 days. It's right before you have your period. During those 14 days, you now process caffeine 70% slower
Wow.
because your estrogen is going up. Now, this also happens if you're on birth control pills all the time because you're putting estrogen into your body. Okay. So the normal half-life of caffeine is 5 to 8 hours. So that means if you drink 100 milligrams, and rarely would you have a drink that only has 100 milligrams. But I'm just going to take a tangent here. In the show notes, and you're going to post these. There's a sheet in there to a website that gives you the caffeine content of almost every drink in the English speaking world.
Nice.
Okay, and when you look at it, and there's a whole page just of Starbucks. And I know
Right.
Starbucks is generally just the United States, but Tim Horton in Canada.
Mm.
You
We
know,
have
there's
Starbucks
there's
here. They're everywhere in Ireland as well.
Oh, do you?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
yep. So,
Yep.
you can go in there and look at them. I mean, an average Starbucks coffee has 150 to 200 milligrams of caffeine in one cup.
Mm.
Because remember that they keep changing the goalposts, as one might say. A cup used to be 8 ounces, then it went to 10 ounces, then it went to 12 ounces. Now it's normal 16, and an XL is 20. Okay, if you drink an XL Starbucks coffee, you're getting 200 to 300 milligrams of caffeine in one cup. Okay,
Jeepers.
so now you take a woman who goes to Starbucks at noon and she's in that phase of her cycle, and she drinks an XL coffee, and that's even without any of the other garbage in it. Okay, without
Mhm.
the sugar and the flavorings. The normally by five by so that's at noon. So between 5 and 8 o'clock at night, she still has 100 to 125 milligrams of caffeine actively circulating in her system. But at that time of her cycle, now the half life has changed from 5 to 8 to 8 to 12. Just think that caffeine at 10 o'clock at noon, the half life is still there when she's going to go to bed at 10 o'clock at night. Okay, so it's
Wow.
still affecting her. Okay, now she's going to sleep, but guess what it's doing? It's messing with her sleep cycle. And women traditionally have a little different sleep cycle than men, circadian rhythm. They don't get quite as much sleep. And I don't know if this is genetics or if this is because women have been caregivers generally, and they get up and they sleep differently than men because they're taking care of their kids. Whatever the case, I don't have that answer for you. However, I do know that it women's sleep cycles are different. And so now, if they're already have a high anxiety level because of their sleep cycles different, now you throw a bunch of caffeine in there, and when they wake up in the morning, they need caffeine to function. Okay, they do. And the classic is the cup of coffee, the cup that says, "Don't talk to me before I drink this," or "Don't talk to me before 9 o'clock in the morning."
Yeah.
And I play a commercial on one of my presentations. It's Folgers in your cup, and it's 28 seconds long, and it starts out with mom is in the kitchen and she's brewing up a cup of coffee, and they show the beans. You can smell the coffee. This is done very, very well. She pours 2 cups. She goes into the bedroom, and dad is sitting in the floor between two twin beds. She hands him a cup. He smells it. Oh my gosh, you can. I mean, as I talk about this, I'm getting a dopamine hit. Okay, just as I talk about this. Okay, I can give anybody a dopamine hit just talking about this. You don't even have to see it. I did this with my daughter, who's was a chronic caffeine user. She said, "I don't need to see it, Dad. I got a dopamine hit just you talking about it." So then what happens after they both take a sip of their coffee? Two young boys come out of their beds, and they come around and they hover around dad for a while. And then they all have a group hug. And I mean, this is the perfect American family, right? It's just wonderful. However, those boys are not 7 years old. And this is important. If you know somebody, perhaps you know somebody that has young children and you're drinking coffee every morning, and what do they see? You are now programming them every day that coffee is the key to my success, key to my happiness, and key to good parenting. Okay.